Welcome to episode 2 of the Celica build. Haven't made loads of progress since we last caught up in episode 1, but done a few little bits and bobs. I'll talk you through some of them now. So no, the engine is not running yet, unfortunately, but the interior is coming along nicely. So if you remember in the last video, these two pieces were not in the car. I've just popped them back in for now, just as they're a bit tricky to get to, and I wanted to put the seats back in. But everything is dry now, and I've just given it a once over with the hoover, just to get any last bits out of there, and also brushed it. So yeah, just used this guy, just gave it a quick brush. Seemed to be a little bit of dust on there, so maybe when we did the vaxing it's agitated it. I have no idea, but I'm going to pop the seats back in now. I'll quickly show you how I'm going to do that. So before I put the seats back in, I gave the bolts a quick spray. So onto the bolts, before I put them back in, I had actually made a note to myself. I've made a little task list of things to do, and I said remember to grease them, and I almost forgot, but I did quickly read it before I started doing work today. And also, I think I've ruined a paintbrush, but I'm sure it'll be fine for this. But I'm just putting on some of that aluminium grease we talked about in the previous episode, just to make sure that if anyone or myself wants to take these seats out in the future, then they're not going to be seized up and rusty. So just giving that a quick coat with some grease, doesn't need too much, and we'll get them popped in. So I've just popped this in, pop this first screw in, and I'll show you my quick tip of the day. And look how nice the carpets are as well, very nice. But we have our socket if it wants to balance. Again, this is really difficult with one hand. Okay, that might work. Got our socket. I've actually got a bit of a baby wipe. Okay, don't know why we have baby wipes, but anyway, I'm just going to get that open, stick it over the end, so it looks like that. Then what I'm going to do, push it onto the bolt and start tightening. We're not taking the paint off, so all that effort we spent painting the bolts has not been wasted. Right, so we're just tightening up all the bolts now. Go to about 0.1 of a wilt. Very good torque setting. Baby wipe special, if anyone's asking. There is a patent for it. It has got my name on it, so you will need to ask me for permission to use it. And click, yeah, it's about 0.1 mil. A neighbour has kindly donated me some leather wipes. Although there's not much leather in here, we'll give it a try and clean up the back of the seat. So I had already cleaned these, but since we vaxed it, they did get a bit mucky again. So just rub that in. Focus camera, there we go. Give it a good rub. Sounds very wrong, but see if there's anything that comes off. It looks pretty clean. Also, another tip of the day, if you want to paint bolts, egg boxes are really good. Just chuck them in the top, give them a spray, then you can chuck it away after. Okay, so seats are in and they're tightened up. I've got to say, it looks a lot better. It's still not perfect, but to say the car is nearly 30 years old, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. This is the end result. You can see there's still some, you know, bit of muck or dust or whatever, and this part is a bit faded. The passenger side's a lot better, but it's pretty cool. So a quick POV from the driver's side. This thing's awesome. It's, you know, ignore the shifter, that needs sorting, but this is a cool car. I'm pretty glad that I bought this thing. But yeah, you really low down to the floor. The seats are super supportive, and the best thing is it does not smell anymore. If anyone sees me driving around in this thing, they'll probably think you can't actually see over the steering wheel, and you're probably right. I can barely see over the steering wheel, but quite like the whole almost laying down whilst you're driving. It's quite nice. But yeah, interior is looking good so far. Camera is not liking me today, but this is one thing as well. I mean, it shuts and it's got cup holders, but it's a bit all over the shop. So yeah, I might have a look at that. It's on the bottom of the priority list at the moment. I've had the windows down just to let some of the water evaporate from the carpets and the seats. I need to reconnect the battery and I'll put the windows up, and then I think that's all we can do in the car today. So chuck this sketchy lead back on. I think that will be all right. Shut the doors. Look how nice it is in there. It's actually, to say this car is 30 years old, well, 27 years old, it's not in bad shape. I mean, please do ignore those holes, but yeah, pretty happy with it. Also, this is just stuff that I've been collecting in the boot, just to give us a bit more space in the garage. Wherever it is, there we go. And put that one up, put that guy up. Lovely. What I want it to do is go flat. There we go. This thing just looks awesome. And that panel gap is weird. So I need to have a look at that as well, but this thing just looks so cool. Especially without wheels on, actually. Looks better without wheels on. Yeah, the wheels that came on it, they were... Oh, I think they're from... This is a Gen 6, if anyone knows the Celicas. The Gen 7 ones... I think they're pretty cool, but a lot of people, it's like marmalade. People, is it marmalade or marmite? I don't know what it is, but some people like them, some people don't. And I think the Gen 6 and the Gen 5 are the most popular ones. But the Gen 7 had some ugly wheels on, and for some reason they've been put on this. But we'll change them out at some point. But the tracking's out, and I don't really want to spend loads of money on new wheels and tyres. And then with the tracking not being right, it just wears through the tyres. So what I think I'll do first is get it lowered, which might be able to do myself. I don't know. We'll have a look at that and get it tracked. Then we'll have a look at some new wheels. After last night's video, I was working on a bit of painting, and this is the guy that finished yesterday. So masked him up, sanded it, and got a coat of paint on there. So this is the same paint. This is that high temperature paint I was talking about. It goes up to, it says 800 degrees, which for an engine is too much, but the exhaust manifold, you never know. Better to be safe than sorry. But what I did was I started with the easiest one of the three. So there's that part over there. We've got this one, and we've also got the intake manifold. So the intake manifold, I think I'm going to go for black. This guy, I'm not sure. Don't know whether to go for a deep red, something like a classic Japanese JDM style. So if anyone's got any suggestions, chuck them in the comment section, send me a message on Instagram, and I'll have a look at them. But I'm not painting it pink, or am I? I don't know, maybe. Pink might ruin the car, but I think like a deep red would be really nice. If not, I think black is probably the best option. So I started masking yesterday on the parts that I need to paint. I need to take off the paint, the old stuff that's been put on as well. But masking can often be a pain, but it's usually one of the most important parts of painting as well. Because without a good mask, you're just going to ruin things that don't need paint on. So for this part especially, just flip it up. We don't want any paint in there really, because we want a gasket to sit on that and seal properly. And if there's paint disturbing that seal, then we're just going to end up making it leak again. So we'll have to mask all of this off, which looks like a pain actually, but we'll take the time to do that. I'll show you some quick tips on how I mask. This is not going to be the final mask, but I'll do this for demo purposes because we're running out of light. Before we do any form of masking, you need to make sure that the surface that you're going to mask is clean. So once again, ye old brake cleaner is going to sort us right out. Just spray a bit on there now, and we'll get it cleaned up. So this is just a demo. Here's a piece I prepared earlier. I'll chuck that on there. Like that. Just make sure that there's not any creases in it. And I'll just gently, first off, go round. Just make sure that we've got a good connection between the tape and the surface. Step number 3, I think this is. I'm just going to smudge the edges down slightly. And it actually helps if you've got mucky hands, because it can help to show you where you've been already. especially when you leave it and you come back to it. Then grab Stanley. He'll provide you with one of these guys, Stanley blade. Essentially what I'm going to do is just go around the surface, or the exterior surface with the blade. And what we're trying to do is just use the edge of the part and the blade to just cut through that top surface of the masking tape. So we should be able to just peel it off. So you can see it already starting to come off. And usually what I do is I hold the blade at like a 45-degree angle and scrape like this. And small, fast scrapes are usually the best. You can also use a file to do this as well, but I found that the Stanley blade on things like this is the easiest to use. Now we can take off the excess, and one thing I recommend is always pull down. So if you've got this mounting surface, you want to pull away from the tape rather than towards it. So if I pulled this up, if there's any remainders left on these corners, it's going to just start pulling the masking up. So if you pull down, it'll just rip it off in nice pieces like that. A little bit left at the back, and there you go. Here's one that I did earlier. I actually did this last night. I think this was after a couple of beers as well, which was quite impressive. There's a few little bubbles in there, but this should be okay. What I need to do is get the old paint off with a wire brush or some sandpaper and get that painted. Use the sugar soap stuff to clean it. Seems to work. Seems to do the job. Brake cleaner is the best, but it's expensive, so we'll stick with sugar soap for now and see how we get on. Whilst we're here, I'll show you how I am controlling which bolts go where and where they're from. Makes your life so much easier when you come into rebuilding stuff as well. So I've commandeered the top of the fridge and I'm using some bags and some tubs with various labels in, just to say what things are, so I can come back, have a look at it, and make sure that the right bolts go in the right places, because we've probably taken off 100 bolts maybe so far, or at least 100 parts in total, so want to make sure they go back in the right place. Right, I'm just sanding this and I've run out of dust masks, so this is my solution. Back inside now, trying to keep warm, but also got some better lights in the kitchen, so it should help with the masking process. But I've taken off as much of the old paint as I could. It's quite a porous material because it's a casting, which means that all of the bits of paint from the previous paint job just gets stuck really far into the material. It's quite difficult to sand it out, but I used a mixture of wire brush, high grit sandpaper, low grit sandpaper, and just got off as much as I could. Got the manifold in front of me now and just taking a look at this front piece here. I've started the masking process. I did this yesterday actually, and I was thinking it'd be pretty cool if we could have a polished surface with the OEM writing in black on. So what I've done is traced over the original writing, polished underneath with some sandpaper, and I actually finished it off with a bit of WD-40 and really fine grit sandpaper. And this is giving me like let me show you. It's almost like a brushed metallic look. It looks pretty cool. But what I'm going to try and do is use my good friend Stanley over here to cut out the numbers and the letters and the logo. I'm a bit skeptical, but we'll see how it goes. I'm trying to listen to some music to calm my nerves because we've got one shot at this, and I've done the first number and it actually looks all right. Any surgeons that need an assistant, hit me up, because I think I've got the steadiest hands in the game. But so this is what it should look like. When we spray over it, it'll just spray the letters, and then we can peel off this mask after, and it'll leave a nice shiny outline. So this is the process of, I've just cut round the edge, just gently peeling it out. Is it scary? Ooh. 2 hours later, and it's done. It's a new day, it's Monday evening, just finished work, so it's time to put a little bit of effort into spray painting. I've already put a couple coats on. I'll show you now what I've done so far. I've spray painted many things over the years, and I have a really bad tendency to try and spray paint it too quick for some reason and put too much paint on at once, and then it all flows off the surface and you just get a rubbish end product. What you're best off doing is really fine coats and do them more frequently, so like every 15 minutes or so. Obviously depends what paint you're using, but for this one, it seems to dry really quick, and I find that matte or satin colours, they tend to dry a little bit faster than gloss, so you should be able to do maybe 3-4 coats in an evening depending on how big your part is. But for this I've done 2 coats already. I'm going to put on 1 more. We'll leave it overnight and then we can flip it over and do the underside in the morning. This is the end product, and you can see it's a little bit shiny. That's just because the paint's wet at the moment. But what we'll do is leave it overnight and it should be good to flip over and start on the next side. This paint's really good. It's got pretty good coverage. It's reasonably cheap. I think it's £7 a can. And I've actually managed to do these 3 parts. All of them have had 3 to 4 coats. This one all the way around so far has had 3 coats. Just need to do the underside. So for a full can, that's pretty good. I'm quite impressed. Since the last video, I've ordered quite a lot of parts, and I'll just run through them now so you know what we've got coming. We've got new gaskets for the rocker cover, the throttle body. Also, I've ordered some new vacuum hoses. Now I could have bought the swanky silicone hoses. They're about £100 for a full set, and I thought, you know what, do it yourself. I've measured the internal diameter of the hoses that I need. I've just ordered some fuel line hoses off of Amazon. Fuel line hoses, they should be fine. They're probably rated to a higher pressure, and also they're rated to have fuel going through them, so the rubber should be a bit more durable and last a bit longer. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my thought process anyway. We've got some bits for the interior coming as well. So we've got some lights and a switch that I need to wire in. I'll show you now if I've not shown you already. Usually they have a dimmer switch for the interior lights, and for some reason the owner before has put a on or on switch. So here is the on or on button, or it could even be a no button, I don't know. Anyway, this wasn't even connected, took it out of the car, and I've ordered a replacement button and some lights that can fit up to it. And the lights will go in the footwells, and we can just turn them on by the switch so it doesn't drain the battery. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we've bought. I'll have to check my order log, but I think so far we've got everything that we need. Once the parts are painted, they should actually be able to go back on with the new gaskets and maybe start the car. I do not know. We'll have to see. There's that many things that need doing. I'm almost a bit lost at the moment. It's a new day and we're back working on the car. Just got back from the gym, so we've not got much light today. So I think what we're going to do is rebuild the calipers, because we can use the garage for that. I've had a quick tidy up and don't want to get it messy again. So I think what we'll do is wait until it's a bit lighter and then we can do some more painting. Got Autodoc providing the goods today. The rear and front caliper rebuild kits have turned up. We've got new auxiliary belts. This one is for the steering pump, I believe, power steering. And this one is for the alternator. Might as well change them both. Got a rear shock cover rubber thing. I don't know what they're called, but one of the rear shocks has not got one of these on. Well, that's intact anyway, so I've got one of them. And the best one of them all is the right discs. So these are, they're heavy. These are 275mm, I believe. And I've got coated ones as well, so they won't rust. These are about £30 each, so pretty cheap. But we'll get them on this weekend, finally. Also got another parcel. This one is from GT4 Play. And here is Mr. Gasket that we were talking about the other day. We've got the rocker cover gasket. So this is what it should look like. So it should just be a black seal. So we'll get that on as well. And also, these are some almost like rubber washers that go in between the bolt head and the top of the rocker cover. So I thought I might as well get some fresh ones, give them a go and chuck them on the car. Things have not gone as smoothly as I'd hoped, actually, and I didn't film anything because I think there would be a lot of effing and blinding as I was trying to rebuild these things. I think the kits that I've got work, but they aren't a perfect fit. I've done the best I could with what I've had, and everything seems to be moving now, so I'll just show you. So we've got the two rears and the two fronts, and you can see we actually have moving sliders now, which is good. There's problems with both the kits actually. First thing being on the rear calipers, the bolts that they've sent, as you can see, are a bit too long. So I need to cut these down. And on the front calipers, the issue was that these little rubber seals that you can see in here, they came with a metal protective disc around them, which I believe is supposed to fit into the actual caliper mount, and they were just way too big. So I've had to cut the rubber out of the metal ring, and then the size was perfect. Either they've spec'd the wrong sliders, or I'm not sure what it is, but either way, all the other parts are the right size. Just double checked with vernier caliper. These are really good just for checking dimensions before you put things on. But pretty happy with everything else. Seems to have done the job, and I'm sure these will be far better than they were before. So I've just checked the new discs as well, and they are the right size. I've just checked them against the old ones, and the pads fit as well, which is really good. But I'm going to close off this episode here. I know it's only a short one. We've not made loads of progress, but that's the nature of it, as I'm working full time and I'm juggling other things in my life as well. So I'll try and get as much progress done this weekend as I can, and fingers crossed we can actually get the car running. But hopefully we'll have some better episodes for you this weekend, and I'll keep you updated. Once again, like, comment and subscribe if you'd like to see more content, and just drop us a message on Instagram, put in the comments section if there's anything that you want me to do, anything you want me to focus on, or just in general talk about around the car. So give us a shout and I'll do my best to fit all the content in that you guys want.